The Planted Runner is sponsored by Liquid IV. Instead of making New Year's resolutions, I like to focus on process goals, the little rituals that soon become habits. One of mine this year is making sure I'm hydrated before, during, and after every run. One of my favorite ways to hydrate is with Liquid IV. My current favorite flavor is pina colada, which also, by the way, makes a great mocktail any time of year. In each packet, you get 8 vitamins and nutrients, 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, and no artificial sweeteners. And it's non-GMO and, of course, vegan. Make Liquid IV your new ritual this year. Just one stick with 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code PLANTED at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code PLANTED at liquidiv.com. This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. A few years ago, I worked with a woman named Carrie from Australia. She is a delightfully joyful person, even at 4 a.m. before going out for her run. And the reason I know that is because that was the only time we could get together to chat on the phone due to the time difference. Carrie came to me frustrated with her running progress. She was feeling slow and unmotivated on her runs and was wondering if her age was finally catching up with her. Some days her runs would be fine, but other days they were a real slog. I asked her about her runs and what she was eating ahead of time. "Oh, I never eat before a run," she said. "I mean, I will if it's a long run, but I never really bother with it on my normal runs." Aha. I suggested that Carrie try a little experiment. I asked her to eat something very small and simple, like a half a banana or a piece of toast, before heading out the door. If that went okay, she could try increasing it just a little bit more. On our next coaching call, Carrie was simply delighted. She had no idea that her fasted running was affecting her runs and her moods so much. She'd been doing it for so long that she had no idea that anything was even wrong and didn't know how much better she would feel with a little fuel in the tank. Perhaps Carrie's dramatic change is simply an outlier. Does half a banana really have the power to transform everything about your running? And what about race day? Should you be doing anything different than what you normally would do? Let's find out. Welcome to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and my mission is to help you improve your running, your mindset, and your life with science-backed training and plant-based nutrition. On today's episode, I'm going to go over the essentials of pre-run fueling, even if you have a sensitive stomach. You'll learn why eating something, even if it's small, makes such an impact, what foods are best before your run, and how to adapt what you eat based on the type of run and the time of day. And I'll even get into the fundamentals of fueling your marathon or your half marathon so you can start training your stomach today. Did you know that I have a free fueling guide that you can get at theplantedrunner.com/join? I know you are probably on the run right now, so you're not going to be taking notes here, I'm sure, but I've got you covered. I'll remind you again at the end of the show about the free fueling guide, or you can get it now at theplantedrunner.com/join. And one last thing before we get into it, I want to announce again that I am bringing back something exciting, the return of the PR Training Lab. If you've been listening for a while, you'll remember that last season, I gave away 10 free custom training plans to runners just like you. Each winner was featured on an episode of the podcast where I explained exactly how I made their training plan to get to their dream goals. It was so much fun and so successful that I'm bringing it back for spring racing season. If you would like to win a free custom training plan and be featured on a future episode of the show, first, write a review of the show on Apple Podcasts. This is what helps the show grow and reach new runners. And then the next step is to enter to win at theplantedrunner.com/PR lab. I'll choose some lucky winners to get a completely free custom plan that I make live right here on the Planted Runner podcast. Again, 2 steps, write an Apple review, and then enter to win at theplantedrunner.com/PR lab. And with that, we are back to the show. But of course, Don't forget to stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode for another Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. If you are an early morning runner, you probably head out the door as soon as your shoes are tied. There is no time to eat a meal, wait for it to digest, contemplate why you got up so crazy early in the morning when the rest of the world is peacefully sleeping, and then go for your run. But there are benefits to eating before a run, even very early in the morning, so I'd like to go over exactly what you should eat before you head out the door, no matter what kind of run you plan to do or what time of day it is. Now, whenever I talk about this, I get feedback from runners who, like Carrie from Australia, never eat before their runs. Some runners do it because they don't want to take the time to eat and digest, or they're afraid of an upset stomach. Other runners feel that running fasted will burn more fat. And then there are the runners who say they feel fine, so why bother? So what does the science say? Technically, you don't need any fuel at all for a normal, easy run that is less than 60 minutes. You'll have plenty of stored glycogen in your muscles and a virtually unlimited supply of fat that will get you through that easy run. You can go for your run and eat when you get back. But the problem is that our brains are wired for survival, not running performance or feel-good moods. Starvation and attack from animals were common threats to humanity throughout our evolution, and your brain desperately wants to avoid both. When you wake up, energy levels are lower, not just because you might not have had enough sleep, but because you're fasting. A run can help you wake up a bit, but you're forcing your body to run on empty. After the run, you are in an even bigger calorie deficit than when you woke up. Big calorie deficits cue the body to slow down the metabolism and slow down the recovery process. So if you're running fasted, thinking it will help you lose fat, it could very well be teaching your body to hold onto that fat even tighter. To make it even worse, another response is that your hunger hormones start to ramp up even higher, either right after the run or later on in the day. This is why one of the most common causes of overeating is underfueling. The next reason I highly recommend that you eat before every single run is to train your stomach. Just like your legs, your stomach can be trained. If you have a half or a full marathon on your calendar, you should be training your stomach to be able to handle enough food before and during your running. The more often you do this, the more normal it will feel, and the fewer issues you are likely to have with fueling on race day. Speaking of race day, let's take a little detour here and talk about how to fuel the marathon on race day. This also applies to the half marathon if you will finish in more than an hour and a half. For the absolute best performance possible without the dreaded bonk, you want to be consuming as many calories as you possibly can without getting sick. After all, it doesn't matter how fast your legs are if your brain slows them down mid-race because it's panicked about running out of fuel. Current fueling guidelines are 30 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour, or 120 to 360 calories per hour. But you don't want to wait until an hour into the race to start fueling. Hit the gels every 30 minutes to keep your brain happy with a steady drip of fuel. There's not too many people on the planet that can consume that much without practice, so fuel like it's race day on every single long run. All right, back to running fuel in general. I hope it's pretty clear that we need to eat before we run, but what types of foods should we choose? When trying to figure out what you should eat before you fuel your run, the first thing you need to determine is what kind of run are you about to have. An easy 30-minute jog is going to have different fuel requirements than a long run, marathon, or hard speed session. I'll go over the differences in more detail shortly, but unless you are running very slowly for a very long period of time, what all your runs have in common is that carbohydrate-rich foods will help fuel you the best. Now, many health-conscious runners get a little worried when I tell them to eat simple carbohydrates, but remember, you are not about to sit on the couch. You are fueling for performance, and everything you eat will be used for fuel, not stored as fat. I understand this concept can be tough to stomach, often quite literally. The best way to start is to experiment with very small amounts of food that are quick to grab and easy to digest until you find out what works for you right out the door. And once you find it, make sure that you always have it in the house ready to go. So, what makes a perfect pre-run food? I'll go over that when we come back.
You've got a great idea for a small business, but you just can't get it off the ground. You want to be your own boss, set your own hours. Well, new year means new opportunities, and Shopify's got you covered to help get your venture off the ground. Shopify makes it easy to manage your growing business. You can get your store up and running easily with thousands of customizable templates. And they help with the details like shipping, taxes, and payments from one single dashboard. Don't kick yourself next holiday season when your 2025 resolution list looks the same as it does today. Make it happen with Shopify. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/income.
Welcome back to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. When you're trying to find the perfect pre-run food, there are a couple of boxes you're going to want to check. The first is that you want a food that's high in carbohydrate and low in just about everything else like protein, fat, and fiber. And second, you want it quick, convenient, and reliable anywhere you are. For an easy run first thing in the morning, try starting with a half a banana, a fig bar, or a date. Maybe grab a handful of Cheerios or munch on a couple saltine crackers. Some runners do well with fruit juice or applesauce, while others find the fructose in those a little hard on their stomachs. A lot of running registered dietitians I've worked with recommend fun things like Pop-Tarts and graham crackers. I know that this advice seems crazy to those who struggle with weight or who want to lead an exceptionally healthy lifestyle. But again, quick carbohydrates behave differently at rest than with exercise. If you're a strict vegan, you'll want to know that Pop-Tarts usually are not vegan because they contain gelatin. Gelatin is made from animal collagen, a protein found in the bones, cartilage, skin, and tendons of animals. So if that's not for you, choose another option. If you love graham crackers but you avoid honey, be sure you check the label for that. Now, if you are running a shorter, easy run later in the day, there's usually no need for extra fuel if you've eaten in the last 1 to 3 hours. As you start to plan your fueling for longer and faster running, the equations will look different. What you eat and when you eat it before a run will depend on when you ate last and what type of run you are about to do. The tougher or longer the run, the more important it is to get both the timing and the food just right. Like most aspects of training, finding the optimal time to eat before a run is an individual preference. But in general, the harder you have to run, the earlier and more substantially you should eat. This is to ensure that you not only have enough fuel on board, but that you don't have a lot in your stomach, which obviously can cause issues. Now, there are some runners that can eat just about anything within 30 minutes before a run, and they're good to go. If that's you, you're amazing. But if you are like most runners, you'll need to play with the timing to figure out what's best for you. A good rule of thumb is that if you have a long run or workout that's going to take longer than 90 minutes to complete, you will need extra fuel. Yes, it's true that you have about 2 hours of fuel stored in your muscles and liver, but your brain will start to protest by slowing you down long before the 2-hour mark. I recommend trying to eat a medium-sized snack or a mini meal about 90 minutes before your hard run. The exact calorie counts will look different for every runner, but it could roughly be in the 200 to 400 calorie range. That could be a bagel with hummus, a small peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or even something super simple like a bowl of rice with soy sauce for sodium and flavor, maybe with a drizzle of tahini or a few slices of avocado for a little extra staying power. A classic long-run breakfast is oatmeal with maple syrup and maybe a few blueberries sprinkled on top. As you might have noticed, these mini meals are not entirely carbohydrates. They also have a little fat and protein to help keep you from being hungry again right as you start the run. Many runners turn to commercial bars, gels, and powders for pre-run foods. And if you like the convenience of those, there's really not anything wrong with that because, again, you're going to burn it all off in your run. But in general, I say save the specialty products for the run itself and eat whole foods if you can before and after. Now, if you've tried fueling before a hard run and you just can't stomach it, remember, the stomach can be trained, but you will have to experiment. Start with a small snack 2 hours ahead of your hard or long run. If your stomach handles it well, next time try moving that same snack forward 15 or 20 minutes. But if you experience stomach issues, push back the timing of your snack 15 to 20 minutes and maybe tweak the recipe a little bit. Keep moving forward or backwards 15 or 20 minutes per run until you find the closest time you can eat before your run, before you have any issues. This way, you'll know exactly what foods sit well with you and exactly when to eat them on important workout days and race day. These are just some sample ideas of what you can eat before a run to stay energized and prevent stomach issues. While eating before a run is highly individualized, with a few simple experiments, you can find the optimal pre-run meal or snack for you, even if you run first thing in the morning. The humble banana just might be more powerful than you think. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, I've got a completely free ultimate fueling guide for runners that you can use to plan what to eat before, during, and after all your runs. Get your copy today at theplantedrunner.com/join. That's theplantedrunner.com/JOIN. And now it's time for the Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Today's topic is an imagination game that I call Magnetize. Imagine that you have a powerful magnet the size of a bread plate attached to your chest. When the run gets tough, imagine the plate is magnetized and it pulls you towards the objects in front of you. It could be the telephone poles or the mailboxes in your neighborhood, or it could be the stronger runner ahead of you in the race. The magnet effortlessly pulls you forward, chest first, until you pass the object, and then it pulls you to the next one. Perhaps the magnet's power strengthens if you speed up or pump your arms back. The more details you can use in this imaginary game, the better. This game not only takes your mind off all the hard work you're doing, but it encourages better running form. And it just might make your run a little more fun. Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can enter to win a free custom training plan for your next race and get featured on the show. Just write an Apple Podcast review and enter at theplantedrunner.com/PRLab. Of course, reviews are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next because I read every single one. Have a great run today.
There is no hood like parenthood. When you meet a fellow parent, you just kind of get each other on a whole nother level. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of 3, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. I interview changemakers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, aka their mom sense and dad sense. I've had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton. It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
Episodes release every Thursday. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Join my tribe at thatstotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you.